are paying around.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the World of Schwartz Tech Cat Show. Here we're going to be talking about tech trends that impact your business. And bi-weekly we come in, we fly into your home through those radio and internet waves, and we fill your life with exciting knowledge about tech trends. So this week we have a fabulous man, one of the smartest people I know in the television industry, a tech genius.
Says that to everyone.
Hardie Tankersley, who is, I'm calling him the Platformist.
I like that.
Because he is the VP of Innovation at Fox Broadcasting Network. He's been doing that for a while, but he's always had his hand in the latest platform and bringing television into the future by bringing television content, entertainment content, into a variety of platforms. So Hardie, welcome. And Hardie and I have spent many years. Well, there he is. The audience is a little asleep. Wake up, everybody. Wake up. Gets crowded in here. Gets warm with all those bodies. So Hardie, you and I have known each other for a long time. In fact, we're often either on panels together or I've moderated you a lot. And
it's a small town.
It's a small town. But I wouldn't want to paint it. Anyway, I can't take credit for that.
Thank you, Stephen Wright.
Yeah, that's right. Is there a lot of pressure in your world for having innovation as part of your title? You know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because like nobody knows what that means. How do you know? Like at the end of the year, did you innovate?
Right.
What
is that a
check?
KPI for you?
Right.
That you
exactly.
Right.
Like how do you know that you
that you did something? So what is your day like at Fox? Like what's your responsibilities there?
So I manage a couple of things, but it's basically what we call digital platforms is the technology behind anything interactive that goes with the shows on your local Fox station from 8 to 10 p.m. So it's everything from Fox.com and the Fox Now set of apps to AmericanIdol.com and voting on American Idol or any kind of little Facebook games we run or anything that has technology behind it, that associates with television. So we're this little outpost of technology inside this giant old-fashioned TV business. Which is a very interesting place to be. And so we're looked on to try to both run a digital video business, the distribution business, which is letting people watch Fox
get
shows.
The content out to everything.
Yeah, and put ads in it and support the ad sales efforts of the network and figure out how to integrate things with TV advertising and support that business. And then also marketing things to drive people to watch TV the old-fashioned way. So we do things like we just did a Oculus Rift experience for Sleepy Hollow, which is really just a marketing stunt.
Right. At Comic-Con, right?
Yeah,
because that was Comic-Con had a few Oculus Rift things, but
everybody's
yours
doing it now.
Yeah, but yours was like the one that everyone yours was the best.
Yeah.
But describe what happened. What happened at Comic-Con if you went to your booth for that? Yeah,
so we did a whole Sleepy Hollow experience where we created a graveyard. And so the whole thing about the Rift and virtual reality is immersing people in this reality. We want to immerse people in the story, and there's a whole lot we can talk about in terms of storytelling and virtual reality and how that works as a medium. But what we really wanted to do was give people a Sleepy Hollow experience. Can we put people into the show? And so you put on your little headset and you're dropped into a virtual graveyard. It's very spooky. There's mist flowing through, and there's tombstones around, and then there's lots of different little Easter eggs of little bits and pieces from the show that if you read the tombstones you can get. Or
are people screaming and falling off their chair and doing all that stuff that often happens with Oculus Rift?
Yeah, it's pretty calm. So that's the interesting thing. One of the big things about virtual reality is you can't move people around.
Right. They're sitting.
And they can't walk.
Right.
Well, we have them standing.
They have them standing. Okay.
But yeah, you could make them sit. But you're just like you're in place. You can look around, and that's about all you can do. You can't walk. You can't reach out and
so
touch
can you
things.
steal things from their wallet when they're
absolutely. It's amazing to watch them. They have no idea what they're doing.
That's so cool. So
in
you
real life.
occupy this really interesting place of having.
Oh wait, so let me finish the
Go ahead.
the
Go ahead.
punchline of this story
Yes.
is then we have Ichabod Crane shows up and he talks to you and he warns you that something bad is about to happen, and then the headless horseman rides up and chops your head off.
And you
Like,
experience
hear,
that?
Yeah, you
Okay.
hear him running, the hoofs, running behind you, and you turn to see, and there he is, and then the axe swings, and then this sort of sky spins, and your head's been chopped off, and you land on the ground looking up at the headless horseman.
With no head.
You still have a head, but your head is separate from your body.
Oh, great.
Your head is now lying on the ground.
Which is often how I feel on the weekend.
And then he picks up your head and sort of looks at you, although he has no head, so it's not really. Anyway,
it's a headless kind of.
That's the big punchline. So anybody out there that hasn't done this yet, I know I've ruined the storyline for you, but we're going to put this up so that those of you that have your own
Oculus
Rift can download the experience and run it at home.
and watch it. So here's my question to you, because
and then of course it's a marketing thing. You get to post your photo to Facebook.
Oh,
with
and it's
your-
socially
you have
sent
a
out.
picture of yourself.
That's
with
great.
the
Without a head.
Without a head. Well, you have a picture of yourself with the headless horseman holding your head.
Got it.
And I got my head.
And all I
chopped
got
off.
was this
all I got
dumb
was this
head.
lousy animated GIF. But
So,
anyway.
but what your story just, I think, shows the audience here is that you're really sitting in this interesting place of having to understand every single new technology platform out there, but also be able to creatively enable the storytelling of your Fox shows. So how do you do it? Like, what's your process? Are you always every day looking at a new platform, and then you keep up with what your showrunners and content creators are doing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so there's the piece of it which is just trying to keep track of what's going on and who's doing what and what's new. We have we have relationships with the MIT Media Lab and with the USC Annenberg Center, so we're kind of into that advanced technology.
So you partner with
radar.
organizations that have startups or access to new stuff, and they bring you ideas?
Exactly, and academic research about what's down the road and putting together interesting ideas. So we work with them about emerging technologies, and then figuring out how they apply to storytelling, which is kind of the interesting part. So then we work with all the shows, the various staffs, the producers, the writers, the actors, and it's sort of an organic process, and every show is different. And we work with each show to say what are their strategic goals in terms of marketing, what are they interested in storytelling, how does their story world, how can it exist in different media and different format, how extensible is it, what are we doing with the characters and all that kind of stuff. And so every show is a little bit different. I mean, you have things like American Idol, which is a big machine that's been running for
reality,
many
specifically
years.
reality, right?
Yeah, and reality. We have a show coming up called Utopia, which will launch in a few weeks.
Ooh, what's that one about?
And it's a reality show that's streamed live 24/7.
Oh wow!
So
Okay.
we're taking 15 people and we're dropping them into a remote location. And they
Harvey
have,
did quotes when he said
yes,
remote.
exactly.
So
Quote remote location, which is not all that remote, but it's isolated.
Okay.
They can
like
still
Hoboken or
yeah,
like
exactly. Like suburban Los Angeles.
Okay.
But but it's a wilderness. But it's not like Survivor. I mean, the point is the goal is for them to create a utopian society from scratch. So the idea is there are no laws, there are no rules. The utopians, the people can, however they see fit, can organize their society and build a society. So they have to start by building some basic subsistence things, like they got to build shelter and plumbing and whatever it is they want. Right? They start with a very minimal set of resources.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone training them on the basics first, or they just get thrown in there?
But there are among the people, there are different skill sets. So probably one of the people in there will be a carpenter.
Okay.
One of the
People that
will
can
be
contribute.
People that have skills that one of them may be
I don't have
a
any
hunter, one may be a
skills.
farmer. Exactly. So no, you have skills. Like at some point
I can
they'll
talk
need-
at cocktail parties.
Right. That's useful. So they have to build. They will probably want to build an economy,
Oh,
and they
okay.
have to build maybe they need an economist. Maybe they need a writer.
Right.
Maybe they're going to figure out. They're almost like a country of themselves. Can they build products they can sell to the outside world and generate revenue, and so that they can then
God,
buy
that is
more
fascinating.
luxuries.
Yeah.
And so it's this raw idea of crafting a whole new society from the beginning and just let people determine it how they will. And the whole thing is, the whole environment is wired with cameras and sound and streamed live 24/7. So through the web and through the apps, utopiatv.com or the Utopia TV app on devices, you can tune in and see what people are doing 24/7.
Anytime.
And then we produce that into a weekly television show.
So
that
digital
runs in-
platforms capture all of it, and then the linear captures sort of the best of it,
Yeah.
kind of. So did they come to
Exactly.
you with it already figured out, or did you contribute to how it would play out on the digital platforms?
This one was pretty, well, we're figuring it out every day.
Oh, okay, good.
But this one's pretty figured out. We're actually going to be the second territory to launch this show. It's up and running in the Netherlands
Okay.
since earlier this year. It'll be launching in Turkey at the same time. So it's an international format.
Got it.
Developed by Talpa and John Demal, the guys who originally did Big Brother.
Got it. So one of the founders of Endemol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Is now has a
His
company
own
called
company.
Talpa, and
Right.
they do the voice and
Right.
a-
So
and
they
a few
brought
other
brought
things.
the franchise to you, the idea to you, and
we
then-
bought the show.
and
But
you're
the show,
you're Americanizing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the show comes with this whole digital component,
Mm-hmm.
which is the streaming, and then we're always working on ideas of how do you interact with
The
with
audience.
those kind of reality shows.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that on American Idol.
Right.
you
The
know.
voting, you had a lot of
Yeah,
voting first.
there's
You guys are
certainly-
always doing voting first. And you were
There's-
up for some Emmys this year on
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
The whole show is based on voting, right?
Right.
Obviously from the beginning.
Yeah.
But how can we make that a richer, more interesting experience now that we have much more fidelity than just like text one to this number to
Right.
vote for this person? Now we have a lot more interaction. We have all of those contestants are on social media and they're interacting with their audience and they're talking to people in real
Directly
time.
and saying this
Yeah.
and that.
So the audience is really involved in how those shows go. So I think there's a very rich opportunity in that genre for interactive, how technology can apply to that storytelling. But it's more of a documentary style than it is, in scripted.
See, it's so interesting because on most of the panels that I've been on with you, it's been more of hearing from you about what platforms you think are real and, what you don't buy. Because a lot of like technology or vendors or platforms will say they do this and they do that. And
Yes.
Hardie's always the
I'm
one
a
on the
professional
platform to
skeptic.
say, no way, or I don't buy that is my favorite Hardie line. But the truth is that you actually are more of a storyteller than you get to say on those platforms because you really have to really understand how to create engagement with the audience.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
We sure try. I mean, that is you talk about our KPIs. That's our big goal is audience engagement because that's what you can do with all this stuff. That's really what it's about. And that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah. So all right. So I know you built Fox Now the last couple of years, and that's a great place to go to interact with all your shows. And people create logins. And so, is your goal to basically build a whole audience that just engages with everything on Fox Now? But what about Shazam and all these other apps and things? Like, how do you navigate between building a Fox platform and then all these apps and things?
That's a great point. I mean, we want to reach people where they are. We will participate in anything that's mainstream pop culture. Facebook is a big deal, and you have to be
Play.
there.
You have to play.
So we're not. I think at some point, a lot of people in this industry were of this mind that you need to have exclusivity in your own destination, and we're going to try to build up our own site by locking everything down. And we've kind of gone the other way. So we have all of those American Idol performances are on YouTube. We have all of those contestants are on Facebook and Twitter. We have a lot of stuff going on in Snapchat and Vine, and so we want to be where
Be
the
everywhere.
audience is.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you guys, I do know that you have this insane social media team because your shows are so social, and they certainly hit a lot of millennials. And are you involved in evaluating all those social media platforms as well?
Oh yeah, all the time. We're constantly looking for what's emerging and what's interesting. I think that's worked well for us. We were very early in on Facebook and Twitter, and I think that worked well for us. It allowed us to build a much bigger fan base
Early on.
because we started early, and we started when it was less intense and competitive and crowded, right?
People didn't know yet what that stuff was going to do.
Yeah, and the people were there, and they just thought it was cool, and so that's another reason why we've done Fox Now, to try to get on the home screen, to get on as many of those platforms as possible. And then they're not all gonna go big and become that mainstream. They're not all gonna become Facebook, and we may we may walk away from some that don't make
hit
or get by it or whatever, but I think we're trying to be diverse. We're trying to be on as many as we can within reason.
So are you pitched every day, 24 hours a day, by new vendors and new
Yes.
tech companies? I mean, I know I've pitched you.
Yeah.
So people are just constantly.
Constantly,
And how
yes.
how do you
It's
have you
relentless.
operationalized that, or do you just take it as it comes, and how do you build budgets when you don't know what's going to launch in a year?
Well, it's funny. This is Hollywood, right? So the people you meet with are the ones that have friends in high places. Right?
It's a favor driven.
There are a lot of, I don't want to name names, but there are certainly a lot of meetings that we take because somebody owes somebody at
Blah blah.
blah blah.
Yeah.
At CAA.
Right,
or,
right.
somebody
So you
who-
do
who's
favor
showing up or
meetings, and
whatever.
you do passion
Um,
meetings, and you do meetings that
Yeah.
you instinctively know are something you should pay attention to.
We try to keep a toe in the tech land, and I think we pick up stuff faster than other entertainment properties because of that. And it's just because several of us have a background in Silicon Valley.
You kind of
keep
have to,
contacts
right?
there, yeah. You've got to be aggressive in finding the interesting technologies that are coming on, figure out how you can use them. If you just sit back and let everybody that thinks they've got a business come to you, you're going to end up with a very filtered view of what's out there. And one of my standard speeches to startups is if you've built a business plan in which your third slide in your investor presentation is here's how much of the TV advertising business we're going to take. That's a problem for us, right?
Yeah.
We don't have enough advertising business to share around.
Right.
We're not that excited about the idea of
a company coming along and
cutting
saying,
down
yeah.
and giving some startup a cut of our revenue, unless they think they're going to double our ad sales business, which they're not, because the scale is
small for these new
and the scale
things.
of our existing business is huge,
Right.
and it doesn't move that easily, right? And all of these startups are actually targeting everyone seems to think there's a wide assumption that ad revenue or ad spending will move from TV to digital, and it does in little ways, but it hasn't in a
Big way.
It still continues to defy
Behavior.
defy the intuitively obvious that
It should move.
match the
consumer
the
activity.
usage. Yeah.
Right. Why isn't it? So why are advertisers so slow to move their dollars to the digital platforms?
I don't think it's necessarily intuitively. It is intuitively obvious, but I think the reality is counter to that. The reality is that TV ad spending still moves the numbers in the way that it always has, and the unique kind of advertising that happens on television doesn't translate well to digital.
That big brand messaging, big awareness. So
Exactly.
it's this thing that we've been talking about on and off, where you still need, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you still need that big brand awareness messaging that TV advertising does, But then the digital platforms you can drive to direct response.
Yeah, exactly.
So can it be a nice, healthy mix?
And that's what we're trying to figure out. I don't
Right.
think anybody's solved this yet. You see this in one of the, I think the big issues we as an industry have right now is that nobody's
Solved.
video ad revenue nobody's video ad units are completely full, right? Everybody knows that we all have these common problems of seeing the same ad over and over again, or seeing a lot of promo. Like even the big guys haven't figured out how to build that business, because it turns out, guess what? It's a different business. I mean, even though we all think of it as I'm watching the same show, I'm just on a different screen. The fact that the infrastructure is completely different turns it into a completely different business model. And there are a lot of pieces in the way
and different
that
behaviors,
structure
right? Different consumption behavior.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Are you also looking? So you have your day-to-day of what you have to do. Then you have to be looking out 6 months to a year. Then what about the future of network? Because are you looking at that too? Because maybe I don't even think of Fox, and not as an insult to Fox, but when I think about a show, I think about the show. Yes. I don't think about the network and the channel I'm going to. So are you guys looking at what happens to Fox's brand?
Yeah, absolutely. We call it network effect. There has to be a network effect. You can't, in television, you can't cold start every new title of every new show from zero. You can't afford to, because you can't afford to market in the way that movies do, in the way that theatrical does. Every new movie is a whole new, right? Unless it's a sequel, which is why they love sequels. You have to cold start a brand for a film.
So you're talking about a new show that has a pilot,
exactly.
right?
So the only way for television to work at scale, high-end television, is to be able to make new hits off of the backs of old hits, right? So you have to have that audience and be able to drive that audience to new shows, make them aware of stuff through promo. I mean, this is why everybody basically loses money on sports, is on broadcast, is because it gives you a platform to promote into other shows. So you have to have a network effect. You have to be able to drive audience to new shows. And I think you do see more and more identification of the network, although what you call a network is different. Like everybody knows that House of Cards is a Netflix show, right? And it establishes that brand of Netflix when you go for a certain Netflix
it has a
flavor.
It has
you
flavor.
know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And HBO the same way, right? Game of Thrones is very clearly, I think the audience understands that's an HBO show.
And they have an expectation.
Yeah, exactly. And there's an expectation of quality. I think you have that in broadcast. I think people know what, they don't necessarily understand, I think, on a mainstream, the particular stylistic distinctions between CBS and ABC and NBC and Fox, but they do understand a broadcast sensibility that all of us
You have an
belong to.
expectation of what
There's
a Fox
cable
show will be,
sensibility.
right?
You kind of know what FX is. You kind of know what you're going to get when it's on USA. And I think we're getting more and more interested in
what's Fox.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Managing that Fox brand, creating that Fox experience, and that's why we do Fox Now, for example, so that we can create a network-controlled experience where we manage the whole experience. It's not just a list of shows. It is an
experience. You're jumping into an experience.
Yeah.
And I do know for Animation Domination, which is Friday night, right? Is that Friday? Sunday night. Okay, Sunday night. That I do actually watch it. So but when you're a working mom, the days blur.
Well,
but
you can record it and watch it whenever.
Yeah, exactly. But I do have an expectation of what that's going to feel like.
Yeah.
Like it's all those adult comedic cartoons
Simpsons,
that are edgy,
Family Guy, Bob's
very edgy,
Burgers.
very clever, require paying attention or you'll miss a great joke. So I do have that brand feeling about that. And then you're looking at, am I watching it on Fox Now? Am I watching it on the Fox authenticated app? I often watch things on my Samsung connected TV on the Time Warner app because that's the only place I can get it on demand.
Yeah.
So I'm often doing that. In fact, all the sci-fi shows, you and I have talked about this, I'm a sci-fi freak.
Oh, yeah.
And so any shows that you guys do, I think Fringe was one of them. I would just run to that app, and I would be, and I think I even emailed you, where the frack is Fringe, Hardie?
Yes.
And you were like, it should be
yes,
there,
yes.
and I'm like, it's not there, God damn it! What happened on Fringe? But so what are you saying? Let's go to our next segment.
Is anyone still listening to this?
Yeah. People are out there.
Wake up.
We're going to hear them. Hey, audience, are you there? Audience, do we hear? Oh, there they are. There they are.
I'm sorry. I thought they fell asleep.
No, they're up now. It's a little hot in here, that's all. So we're going now to our next segment, which is called the Top Trend segment.
Wow.
And the Top Trend segment.
It has its own theme.
Everything has a theme here on the Tech Cat Show. And my question to you is, what are you seeing right now as a top technology trend? Obviously, you mentioned Oculus Rift and augmented reality. Is that like the big hot thing right now? Are there other things that you're seeing that are really hot and big and that you kind of believe in?
I don't see any. I don't think there's any one big thing right now. I think we're in a weird. We're in a weird gap. Actually, my biggest trend is probably like the anti-trend. We're retrenching on a lot of things.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Like second screen interactive TV.
Okay, great.
Like it 2 years ago, we all thought it was there and ready.
Right.
And there were all of these. There were a bunch of startups doing it. Everybody was building content. We were building stuff.
All the apps that had you check in and do different things and get loyalty points and whatever. Right.
Right.
And I love that stuff.
There was sync. There was we all love that stuff in theory.
Yeah.
But in reality, nobody wants it. Right.
Even on I loved reading. I forget which one it was. It was Get Glue.
Yeah.
I loved reading during the Fringe days Get Glue's East Coast feed.
Yeah.
Because I loved hearing everyone's reaction to the show. So that you're saying that isn't.
That was great. Where's Get Glue now?
It turned into something else, which I can't remember.
Exactly my point.
Like Snapseed,
they're still our good
or
friends.
I don't know what it's called.
They're called TV Tag.
TV Tag, that's what it is.
Still a big fan of theirs. But I think that we've given it a pretty good shot.
Right.
All of us as an industry, we did a lot of stuff in the last couple of years
to drive it,
and nothing took off. So now we have to sit back and go, okay, what happened?
Right.
Why didn't it work the way we all, convinced ourselves and convinced each other that it was going to work? And what do we do now?
Right. So what are you doing then?
Well, just quickly, I think also, interactive advertising is the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that interactive advertising is this big holy grail, and that's where all the money is, and we've built enough foundational technology that we can do basic interactive advertising, and it turns out nobody wants it. So we figure out what does that mean.
Do you mean nobody wants to stop watching a show to interact with an ad, or they don't want to interact during the commercial? Is that what you mean when you say nobody wants it, or?
Either one.
Okay.
I think you've
done tests,
industry,
you've done research,
we've done enough out in the real world where people could actually do this, and we've gotten not a lot of excitement, not a lot of usage, not a lot of take up on both the consumer end and on the advertising end.
Because it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
to
it's
make
a lot of work,
stuff.
and it costs money,
right.
And advertisers are not interested in spending more money.
Right. To make something happen.
To make some of this kind of, and it's still kind of out on the edge. So I think we're in a retrenching of okay, let's step back and look at the data that we generated the last few years and figure out what it means and what can we do with it. And so I think we're kind of trying to rethink how to make that stuff work. We have to make it a lot cheaper and easier. We have to make it a lot more compelling for both the consumers and the advertisers and the content providers, the show themselves. They have to create this content.
The show producers, the people writing the shows has to be easy for them too.
And back to the reality thing, I think we've actually been most successful at it. With reality, it makes sense.
Yeah, because it's live. It's mostly live.
It's interactive.
Right.
Right. And it's mostly, and you can really interact with the show because you can talk to those people. They're real people. But when you're talking to scripted characters,
it's different.
You get into a whole different kind of.
Although I would love to have talked to certain scripted characters that I was a fan of.
Yeah, right? Everybody would.
Yeah.
But you can't afford to pay the writers
to do
sit there and inhabit those characters 24/7 and interact with thousands of people.
But God, that would be a great vacation, to go hang out on in your show's world.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. That's what Fox should do. They should bring back Fringe, and they should make Fringe World.
Yeah, right. But this is
and the five of us would go.
is you talk to these guys, the showrunners can just barely make that show as it is. They barely make those 24 minutes of show every week.
Right.
They're killing themselves to make it, and then you go to them and you say, and we want this whole new world that can go forever.
And we want stuff for the web, and we want this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much.
And it's like, well, okay, now how much are you going to pay for that? And what's the business model behind it? And how many more staff are you going to hire? And all that sort of stuff. So We got to figure out the business model around it. The other big trend for us right now, I think, in the network industry is viewing patterns.
Okay.
Is looking at
How people are actually watching TV.
Yeah, because we've all spent the last 50, 60 years waking up to the overnight ratings every day and judging how we did last night. You know, that is at a TV network.
The
That's
Nielsen.
at a broadcast network. That's the first thing you do every morning is you look at last night's ratings and you argue about what happened. And those, now that more and more people are watching delayed on DVR, on VOD, on digital platforms, you've got this that tail of viewing is becoming more and more significant. And now it's like the overnight ratings are a smaller and smaller portion of the viewing audience.
Interesting.
So it's becoming more about leading indicators than it is about raw numbers.
And when you say leading indicators, you mean seeing what's happening across the aggregate of the platforms?
Well, you still look at the overnights to see. It'll give you an idea of relatively what's a big popular show and what's what's failing,
what's tanked,
right? What's happening. But the fidelity that you used to have, the nuance of it, is not necessarily there, because some shows will get 80% more viewing after that first night. And so you got to figure out, what do you think that's going to be? And so we're looking at 30-day averages as a more meaningful raw count.
So it's extended the analytics period of a show's value.
Yeah, right. You can't really judge a show that next morning now.
So are you looking at, then is there this big list? I look at how Fox Now did. I look at how the apps and the connected TVs did. I look at mobile. I look at all these things, and then you determine.
Yes.
So
and
are
we're having
you
to retrain all of our executives. We're having to retrain the industry. We're having to retrain the press on how
That's
we
exhausting.
talk about what. Yeah, what is a hit?
Right. That's so interesting. So you're so internally, are they starting to get it? Like, are the showrunners getting it? Are everyone's getting it at the senior level?
Except the problem is the advertisers still.
So the advertisers are not.
That's what.
Yeah.
Well, they
They
may
are
get
just
it,
not.
but they pay for that C3 number, right?
Right.
They pay for how many people watched their commercial
the night
in
before.
the first 3 days.
Right.
And
So,
they're
but
not really interested in.
Aren't
paying
you
more.
selling things differently, though, to them when you sell it in an on-demand or digital platform, because it isn't going to just be that one moment?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone's having to relearn what success means.
Yes.
So are you sitting closer than you ever have before to the data and analytics
Yes.
folks? And starting to understand that world more and more?
Definitely.
That's
Well, it's
crazy.
more like they're starting to understand our world.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Okay.
their world for 50 years
Because you are
hasn't
always
changed.
right, Hardie, no matter what.
It's not about me. It's about the data. They suddenly care more about the data because the usage in the digital platforms is
More accurate.
And much larger than it.
Right.
It's growing really fast. It's much larger than it used to be.
Right, so it's more overwhelming almost. So you, Hardie, personally, like, how do you consume television? Like, are there certain behaviors that you have? Do you watch connected DVR? Are you watching on mobile or tablet?
Yeah.
Like, what's your sort of, because I always look at my own behavior and then sort of start to see how the world is moving,
Yeah. We all do that, but it's dangerous too.
Yeah,
Because we're all freaks. We should not.
Right, those of us that study and work in this aren't
exactly.
really, we don't fit
we
into.
should not listen to ourselves because we are not normal.
Yeah, but you were the first person who always has cool stuff. Like, I'm definitely gadget girl along with you. Not that you're gadget girl. You're gadget guy. But I mean, you were the first one to show up.
On the radio, you can't tell.
The audience thinks you're very
Exactly,
handsome, man.
yes.
Doesn't the audience think he's a very handsome man?
There we go. That's better.
But you were the first one to say.
I need a little ego boost today.
Yeah. Oh, you're a very handsome man.
Yes, thank you.
Great shirt looks awesome. So you were the first to have a Pebble watch.
Oh, God,
Like, literally
yes.
the first person
She
to
says
have.
as he looks at his watch.
I love my Pebble watch now, but you were the first one to have it. So are you, as
I do
Hardie,
not watch TV on my Pebble.
yet?
Yeah.
But do you think, is Apple going to steal this marketplace? Because you and I were talking a lot about the watch marketplace, and that has these huge predictions.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that will I be controlling my TV? Am I going to be watching TV? What's the big thing you think that's going to really hit in the next year?
it's a diversity of devices. I don't think the watch is a breakthrough. I don't think the watch is like a game changer. For example, I see a lot of people with activity trackers.
Yeah, the Fitbits
and the Mikey Plus and all that. And everybody I've seen do it seems to flame out on it. It's like,
All the
that
time.
was cool for a few weeks.
Right,
and
right.
Like now I did 10,000 steps today. What does that mean?
It means I can have that
means I
cookie.
did the same 10,000 steps yesterday. Like it doesn't, and even if you do re-engineer your life around it, you're not, once you've done it, you don't need the data every day.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure that's like a huge category that's gonna change
To
things.
blow it out.
What
about the
and
connected
the watch
home?
is still really, really hard.
Hard to know what to do with it.
Well, and as an engineering feat, to make a watch that does everything your phone does, which
Yeah.
is what people intuitively kind of want, you can't actually do it. You can't have, the battery's not big enough, the screen's not big enough, the you don't want to have to recharge your watch every day. It's a whole thing. Anyway, but there is an interesting array of diverse devices. I think we've seen a really amazing growth in what we used to call set-top boxes, right? So the little Apple TV, the Roku,
What's your favorite
the
in
Chromecast.
that area?
I don't have a favorite. I don't think there's a clear winner. They're each good at different things, and they're so cheap that I think people have multiples.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Yeah,
I
right?
can't
It's no
even
big
keep
deal.
track anymore how many boxes I have.
Chromecast at $35. It's
Yeah.
an impulse buy.
Yeah.
It's a stocking stuffer. It's
You're
why
right.
not?
I actually wear it as jewelry sometimes.
Yeah. It's very sexy.
Yeah, that's right.
If you, she's like, oh look, she's a geek.
That's right. I
It-
self-identify.
Yeah. I think we see a lot of people with this. Xbox is a big platform.
Do you walk into
for
your house
us.
and go Xbox on?
Yeah. I don't like, and this is just me again. I don't like to talk to my machines.
You don't like to talk.
I
You don't like
know.
that. You're not into the
I'm
voice
not that
activation.
voice oriented. I think that's a little weird.
Everybody does have that. Like our one of our previous guests, Ari Popper, who is all about science fiction. He loves anything voice activated.
Really?
Like he's huge on anything that has that capability. He investigates it, and so he has his whole house talking to him.
Really?
So it's interesting to see what
Yeah.
pieces of tech turn
See,
different.
I'm one of
folks-
those people. Maybe like I love using the web to do things that make it so I don't have to talk to a person.
Right. You want to sit alone with your wife in your nice house and not be bothered.
Yeah, and just like click a button to make a dinner reservation instead
Right.
of having to
Talk
call
to a human,
and negotiate
right.
a whole thing, and it just takes a lot. Voice takes a lot longer to do things than
Right.
just like hitting a button.
Right.
For most kind of things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I
so-
feel that way. I never even listen to my voicemail anymore. Hardly
yeah.
ever.
Oh, I hate voicemail.
Yeah.
It's so
People are like, I
inefficient.
left
It
you
takes so
a
long.
voicemail, and I'm like,
ramble.
yeah, I'm like, good for you and your voicemail. I'm not going
Get
to
to the
get
point.
to it. Yeah.
Come on. Fast forward.
Yeah.
I also hear all these great stories about people with Xbox and like the Xbox like jumping in like accidentally, if you say something in the room.
Oh, right, and it just
Xbox,
turns on.
It turns on the TV and tunes to you're like, wait, no, I didn't mean I want to watch. I was just
Yeah, right. Open
so-
the door, Hal.
Yeah.
Open the door.
Ow.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But do you have any favorite thing that you just can't live without right now in the tech space? Like, do you think do you have a Nest in your home? Are you gonna turn your whole house into
I'm a big fan of the Nest, although living in LA, particularly on the West Side, it's the most useless thing.
Because it's
ever.
always cool.
Yeah, it's like I rarely need it to do anything.
Right,
It's
right.
always just there, like, hey, I'm ready.
Right,
okay,
right.
I'll let you know if a freak,
Right, more in the valley where
freak
I am,
something happens.
it's really hot at different times,
yeah,
and then it's really
yeah,
cold, and
yeah.
so you do need that. And we just haven't gotten around to it. We keep saying we're going to, but do you think the connected home
Oh,
will?
I have all those. I'm a big fan. Like the Hue lights are super fun, and the Nest, and the
All that stuff.
I'm working on I gotta order the Racchio, the connected sprinkler system.
Oh, I like that.
Like I love being able remote control like security system. I love being able to control everything from the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool. I love the people who don't know IFT, right? IFF.
Yeah, talk about that.
right?
I do love if too.
So I'm
For people that
fascinated
don't
by
know what it is, what
Yeah.
is it?
It's a cloud service. It's a website. It stands for if this then that, and .com, and you can set up rules for all your connected devices, so you can do insane, silly nonsense like when my team scores a goal, change my lights to the color of the team.
Oh, really?
Right.
So I didn't know it did. That, of course.
Yeah, it has like all kinds of data
'Cause I was
feeds
using
from
it to
news
just
and
do
sports
Facebook
and
stuff,
stocks.
but-
Like if my stock goes every morning at 8 o'clock, turn my lights green if the stock's going up or red if it's going down.
Oh, that's cool. What a great
Um,
use of that. I didn't even think about that.
If it's, I have it set up so that every day at the actual sunset time, it turns the lights on.
Oh, that's cool.
Like so, they're always on.
Can you mess with someone else's world
Yeah, well, if
that
you're
way?
a good hacker,
Yeah.
if you have their passwords.
I like that.
I mean, that is one of the fun dangers of the whole thing.
Yeah, because lately I've been thinking, because my husband's snoring is fairly loud. So is there a way for me to have that trigger some sort of
Like
house
a shock?
Yeah, like a shock, like some sort of connected
Some sort of
house
painful thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, well, we have one more segment to get into,
Oh.
and that is how do you keep up with the latest trends? The how do you keep up? Oh, there you go. Ow, that seat is really
With
hard.
a broken
Yeah.
spring.
How's the audience doing? Let's hear how the audience is doing. Okay, they're still excited.
Still alive.
Yeah. How are you?
Let's see, high technology.
Yeah, how do you keep up with everything? Because it's so overwhelming.
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, do you read a lot in the morning?
I
Do you-
listen to Lori Schwartz every week.
We have meals. You know,
right?
it's
Isn't that
hard.
your job? Yeah, it's hard. It's not that hard actually. It's so much easier than it used to be.
Yeah,
because we have
yeah.
this internet thing which tells you
That
all
crazy-
kinds
the
of stuff, you
interweb.
know? Yeah, you don't have to go to conferences anymore. Everybody's live blogging and tweeting everything.
Right, so you could just let it comes to you. But which are the ones that you read? Say,
TweetDeck.
which are the ones that you absolutely
My
could
new
do?
favorite thing, you edgy people know, is Product Hunt.
Product Hunt.
Yeah,
Okay.
producthunt.com.
Oh, cool. I don't know that one.
It's like a little bit of a social. It's like Reddit, but for products. So
Oh,
every day,
neat.
like it shows all the new apps. Like you will be the first to find the hot new apps by looking at Product Hunt every day.
So
and
you
there's
go there,
feeds
so
and
you
there's
literally
tweets.
go there, or
Yeah,
do you
it's
have
a
it?
website? Just
Okay.
go and
I'm
look,
writing
and
that
it'll
one
show you
down.
everything
Product
basically
Hunt.
that like launched.
We heard it
everything that's
first
new.
here, ladies and gentlemen. ProductHunt.com.
Yeah,
All right,
Product
that's
Hunt
cool.
Is the coolest thing going right now.
Wow.
Um,
What else? You read
it-
Mashable and Tech News, TechCrunch,
You know,
all that stuff.
I'm a little. I don't. I mean, I read some of those occasionally, and that's more for the businessy side
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But if you want the emerging tech, if you want to be the first in emerging tech, look at Product Hunt. Look at Hacker News.
Hacker News, right?
Y Combinator. I look at Tech Meme.
Tech
every
Meme,
day,
okay.
which is a big aggregator.
So is your day, just because it is so intense,
Mm-hmm.
do you spend that first hour? Because I know a lot of people in our world, they basically close the door,
Yeah.
and for that first hour in the morning, before the meetings take
Yeah.
over your life,
Yeah.
you just read.
Well, no, the big secret is most of those meetings are useless.
Yeah. So you do it. So you do it during that.
Sit in the back and just
Yeah.
like check Twitter and see what's going on.
Right.
'Cause
Do you have everything
90%
coming
of those
in?
meetings are just noise
BS.
anyway.
So do you have all those different things coming into a centralized feeder, or
I mean,
do you
I
go to the
use-
sites?
I use Twitter.
Use
right?
Twitter, okay.
Obviously, I use Feedly
Okay.
to keep some of the feeds going. But yeah, you have to have it as an inbound, and you have to have smart filters on stuff,
Or else you'll be reading a lot of junk stuff.
or else there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
I'm also actually, if you haven't seen, if you know Quartz.
Quartz? No.
Quartz.com, which is a sort of spin out of the Atlantic, and it's general businessy news. It's super interesting.
Is
They
it
have really cool-
COOUR?
No, quartz like the metal, or like the crystal, like QUARTZ.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They
See,
have a
another one I've never heard of.
sub-site called Glass,
Okay.
which is all about interactive TV and the future of TV.
Wow,
And every
Hardy,
day,
this
and
is
it's just a
new to
set of
me.
links.
Oh, that's
I
so
think
cool.
You can find it at glass.qz.com.
Got it.
And
these are good ones.
It's really. they
I'm
do a
I'm
good
writing these
job
down,
of
ladies and gentlemen,
selecting
because I have never heard of Product Hunt
stories.
or Quartz. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So that's what I'm here for.
And in the multi-channel, network news, and I know you have the broadcast perspective and the technology perspective, but do you
And
think
I actually get like old-fashioned every day because I work in television.
Yes.
These weird things
Yeah.
like I get these paper things called
newspapers?
the Hollywood Reporter.
But
and
do you
Variety.
read them? You read them digitally though. Do you?
A little bit of both.
Oh, do you
They
read
still
paper?
show up in the paper, and so they sit on my desk, and sometimes I'll leaf through it, but I also read them digitally.
You don't use them just to make like a napkin for your lunch?
It's I actually do. That's mostly Adweek.
That's mostly right.
Although Howard Reporter's really good at that because it's this thick and heavy stock.
Because you have to be,
Variety is actually
I
the
would
heaviest
think
stock.
you're the guy in the room that has to know that little piece of news when leadership says what's happened. Or,
that's true. The network, the TV guys, whenever something weird technology, they're like, hey, Hardie, what is this? What is this thing? And if I better know.
Right. So you really do have to
What is
continuously...
this Oculus stuff? Yeah. All right, let me explain it to you. I'll bring it in next week. We'll set you up,
So I was just asking about the multi-channel news thing because it seems like that's what my inbox is being filled with the most these days. Is the stuff from Tube Filter and all the different video sites that are giving me news about what's going on. So what is that stuff that preoccupies you at all? You're at the network. Are you looking at Maker got bought by Disney and now all the AOL content guys are over at Maker, and do you think about like that is the next network and that tech is interesting and
Absolutely. I think we think about it a lot in terms of how's it going to affect our business, mostly in terms of development. What
shows? You mean content?
It's a whole different business model for making shows because that's all they are, making shows.
Right.
And what can we learn from that? They make really cheap shows and they break even on them.
Right.
We haven't yet figured out how you make a meaningful business at scale at that for us.
Right. So the YouTube world is not that interesting to Fox or at least in your world from a bigger perspective yet.
It's hard for me to speak for Fox, the whole machine, because different people have different opinions. Yeah. My personal opinion, I don't.
And you have to be the contrarian.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's your brand.
YouTube. I mean, for me, YouTube is like talk radio.
Right.
It has that kind of economics. Like anybody with a webcam and a microphone can make a show, and they do, and many of them are really
like right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for we have a huge audience in this room, and they
exactly.
come
But how
back.
much are you getting paid? How many millions are you getting paid
to do
this?
A lot in Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a whole interesting topic, but definitely paying attention to it, but not yet. I haven't yet figured out how it scales.
How all of that scales, right? To me, it's just interesting that there is that talent is slowly rising to the top. Like, who was it? Grace, Amazing Grace is now. Yeah, she's now going to be a host on E, and so but I guess it's more of a, talent growth network. Let them get trained young. In a less expensive venue.
We'd like to think so. I mean, you'd certainly like to think so.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it really
play out yet.
You can cherry pick a few here and there.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen. I mean, this is another one of these anti-trends. Like for years, everybody thought YouTube was going to be the farm team. It was going to be the way that we're going to discover great new talent.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened. I can't think of a big star that started on YouTube. I mean, there are. I think it's the front page of LA Times today about YouTube stars, and so. But it's a star at a whole different
Shane Dawson
level, and Michelle Phan.
Michelle Phan is really interesting, just because she's selling stuff,
and they're really big. If you're 13 to 18,
but they are making
YouTube
millions, right? Aren't they?
It's unclear. I think that according to LA Times, Michelle made $1 million. Last year, but that's her whole business, right? That's not like they didn't. That's not her bank account,
right?
That's her whole empire,
right?
Like the biggest empire that exists on YouTube is $1 million. Like that's a meaningless number to somebody like Disney or Fox,
right?
Sony, right?
But not to us,
right? Exactly. So I mean, it's a great place if you want to be, an underground, break even,
or maybe it gives you a chance
to
flex your muscles.
Yeah, make it enough of a living that you get to do what you love to do, but it's not like buying a beach house in Malibu kind of business, right?
Right.
Which is,
God, let's do that. So Hardie, before we wrap up here on the Tech Cat show,
remember whatever happened to Fred?
Yeah,
right? Like Fred was the big YouTube
he was
star,
the big
and then
YouTube
he went
star.
and made a movie in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And
is he making another movie?
I don't know.
So you're saying,
I think they may have made Fred 2, and it went straight to Disney Channel.
Right.
Again, it was like.
It goes by his real name now.
He's grown
which
up,
is Fred.
really?
Yeah.
Which is what?
No.
He makes actually YouTube videos with this actress called Jennifer. What is it? Jennifer? I can't remember.
Now
she's a
it's
Disney
Fred and
star.
Jennifer.
Yeah. And so yeah,
Well,
yeah,
but
he's
yeah,
all grown up.
Fred
now.
was a character, right?
Right. It was a character of
So
his.
the guy
It's
has
still
a
a
real
living,
name.
though. Well, we have to wrap it up here at the Tech Cat Show. But Hardie, before we go, what should we be looking out for on some of the projects you're working on? Anything you want to give us a heads up? So you talked about Utopia. Any other shows that you can give us a
look
heads
for
up?
Utopia. Other big show for us is Gotham, which is really fun.
Oh, that's
It's
the Batman.
origin
Okay, that's
story,
right.
The whole origin story of all of the Batman villains. And,
Cool.
before they put on the silly costumes, they were just criminals.
Right.
And so it's
That's
a
good
it's a,
to
it's a
know.
cop show set in Gotham City. It's really fun. I'll make a pitch for our neighbors at FX are doing the Simpsons World.
The
So
Simpsons World.
This is a big deal, yeah. So in a few weeks,
Ooh.
the Simpsons is getting syndicated onto FX, and they've licensed the entire back catalog
Wow.
for 25 seasons of The Simpsons, and it's going to be available in an app.
On demand.
On demand, that slices and dices in really cool ways. So that's going to be really. You have the entire world of The Simpsons in an app.
And were you
25
involved in that
seasons.
to a certain extent?
Yeah.
So that's so cool. You're
Yeah, it's
cool,
super
Hardie.
cool. Yeah, well, that was I can't really take credit for that, but
Sort of.
yeah, no, it definitely built on a lot of stuff that we do, and it's going to be. I think that's a really cool thing. That's going to be a really interesting way to package a TV show. You'll see how it's a different way to package a TV show rather than just a set of episodes. There's going to be lots
An
of
experience.
ways. Yeah,
It's an experience.
And,
Okay.
and using all this technology, you can slice and dice it and say, show me all of the times that Bart's on a skateboard, and just like chain them together.
That's really
know?
cool. So it's a whole new way of accessing content, and it
Yeah.
will change the future generation's perception of what a TV show is.
Well, I think this is how that future generation already perceives what a TV
Right.
show is.
Bring
And this
content
actually
up.
delivers it. Right now, I think they think that's what it's supposed to be, and they're frustrated because
Very good
it's
point.
still they keep bumping into these walls
Right,
of
right.
different windows and devices and platforms and
This lets them
owners.
pick characters and themes and content.
And you don't have to worry
It's
about
discovery. It's modern discovery. I love that, Hardie.
And you don't have to worry about what license you're under and which. It's the whole catalog. It's not, this season's on Netflix and that season's on Hulu and this season's on Xfinity and these episodes are live. On DVR.
You could pull it all together.
The whole thing is all in one place.
That's so good. Well, Hardie, thank you so much for joining us here at Universal Broadcasting Network on the World of Schwartz Tech Cat Show. We hope you come back again.
Thrilled to be here. You have an amazing audience. And,
They're very
and the best
attractive.
catering.
Yeah, the catering is
town,
really
yeah.
good. They still have cold cuts, which I really, really appreciate. Thank you so much. Come back again and join us, ladies and gentlemen, here every other Friday for the Tech Cat Show, tech trends impacting your business. Have a fabulous day.
You've seen him for years as Hollywood's